Hi, I'm Samantha of Goddess Awakening. I'm here to hold a safe space and share with you the true and authentic stories of how we got here. Empowering women, elevating for all. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Goddess Awakening. It is actually snowing here in Oklahoma at this one of the last days of March. Super weird. But anyway, I have a guest here today all the way from Canada. I think you are our first international guest, actually. Hello, Kristina Marie.
From Canada, where it's actually not snowing. So we traded. Hi.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm so good. How are you?
I am so tired. I usually go to bed at 10 o'clock on the weekdays because I get up at 6 a.m. for work. And last night, my brain was just like doing all the things, good things. So I was up till midnight,
Just thinking, ceiling watching.
Yeah, just hanging out in my bed, not sleeping. But that's okay. I get to take a nap after this. So I'm really looking forward to that nap. I love naps.
Sorry to get in the way of your nap taking time.
That is perfectly okay. Okay, so Kristina Marie is in Canada. Like we said, where in Canada are you? To me, Canada is just like this big place.
Canada. I know. I usually just say Western Canada because people are like, you don't sound like a Canadian. I'm like, that's not all of us. So I'm in British Columbia. I'm in a little beachy place called the Shoe Swap, and it's much nicer here than most of Canada, like the weather. So that's really, I love that for me.
That is nice. Because I also, when I think of Canada, I think of like mountains and snow.
Yeah, so I lived most of my life in mountains and snow. But I moved here a year ago, and I'm like, why did it take me my entire life to at least move to a nice climate within this Great White North? But I did it finally.
I've actually never been to Canada yet, but I'm thinking it's probably going to happen this year.
I'm thinking it might.
Yeah, might have some plans for something in August. I don't know.
Oh, some little thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, some little thing in August. But we'll come back to that in a little bit. Also, this is random, but here we are on a podcast. So yesterday I was talking to this woman at checkout at Target, and she is from California, and I love people from California. They always just have the best stories. And she was telling me about this man who's writing this book about like the global economy and how terrible it is in the US and how like all these places are going underwater. So everyone's moving inland, and where they're going to go next for fresh water, Canada. So we may be finally infiltrating.
Now we're not so bad. I get it.
Right.
Now all of a sudden everyone knows where Canada is. Okay.
So I literally was like, I've got friends in Canada. I could figure it out.
I can host you. Got lots of beds.
In the US right now, we have election year. So that is dooming over us. We've got a terrible option A and a terrible option B. And it's kind of like a repeat of 2020, which is also triggering. So we have literally the same two people running. And we all know how 2020 went for the world. So yeah, there's a little bit of like, let's get the hell out of the US for a bit, especially after just coming back from Europe. I'm like, we don't have to stay here. It's cool if we go.
You actually can be anywhere, which is beautiful. I think we live most of our lives forgetting that. It's like there's this quote that I will totally butcher around like someone like, oh, I look at a bird and I think to myself like, oh, you can just fly and be anywhere. And then I remember, so can I. Yeah.
Yeah. Plane tickets are not all as expensive. People really think it is. Like going to Europe, people are like, wow, that's wild. And I'm like, it's a similar situation to going to like any vacation, like in Florida. You know what I mean? Like you got to get a plane ticket. You got to figure out where to stay and eat. But also in Europe, you can like very easily go from like country to country versus in Oklahoma City. Like it's literally going to take me 3.5 hours to get to Dallas. And Dallas is not that exciting. So yeah, the US is a silly place.
Yeah, we have so much land up here too that when I talk about most of my family living in different directions, at least a 6-hour drive in most directions, that's a very easy, normal drive for me, 6 to 8 hours. And it baffles a lot of people because it's just, we're so spread out. There's so much to drive through. We would go through multiple countries if we were in Europe, the same length I drive here just to see my dad.
But you guys don't have states, right? You have Provinces.
Provinces.
Yes.
Funny story. Once I was in LA, we got in an Uber accident. So there was some police and we are all just silly Canadian girls. And we're like, LAPD, like that's all we've ever seen it on the TV. And then he's like, can I see your license, ma'am? And he's reading it. At the time I lived in Alberta. My license said Red Deer, Alberta. And he's like, Alberta, what is that? Like a Providence? He says, I'm like, yeah, sir, it's a Providence. So yeah.
We've got really good education here as well. So
lots of awareness of outside the US. I know I've noticed. Though I'll own it too. Like I didn't know it was election year in the US either. Like I don't know. So it's just funny, but it's both, right? We're all very in our own little countries and what's happening there. And that's kind of how we live. So
yeah, I think you brought it up yesterday when we were in the chat. Someone's like, oh, that's Memorial Day weekend or whatever. And you're like, well, not for us. And then I'm like, oh, yeah.
I'm Canadian. I didn't know that.
I remember during the last Evo Revo, it was during Thanksgiving or right after or something. And then I literally was like, wait a second. Canada doesn't do Thanksgiving. And Brian's like, oh, my God. I got my education in Oklahoma, okay?
Well, we do it. We just do it in October. So ours is like long gone by the time yours comes. So, and you guys have Memorial Day weekend. We actually have Victoria Day, which is the week before. So it's like similar, but just not quite.
Okay. So interesting. Yeah, I don't know anything about Canada besides I know like 5 people now through this online world that we're going to talk about. So let's talk about that because that's actually how you and I got connected, even though we had not actually been connected, but we were in that same container. It is called Evo Revo.
Evolution Revolution Online for long form.
So I think you're like kind of involved with that. So you have been doing that for like almost all 13 sessions, right?
Yeah, so we are about to have the 13th round of this online event in May, and I've done 12 of 13. Yes, so I participated in one. I've coached a team through all since then, and I co-lead the event now for this will be the third one, so the last just over a year. So yeah, I've been heavily involved for some time.
Yeah, we just had our first coaches meeting yesterday. And this will be my second time coaching, third time being a part of the event. And yeah, it's different this time from last time for me because I feel like there's a lot more people who are like in it and want to do it versus last time. Maybe we started off with more people last time too, but it dwindled down.
We started off with a couple more, and it does dwindle down, right? There's people who are excited, and then there's people who are committed and people who are willing to do the work to work the event. So we may see a dwindle this time too. However, we did not have this many. It's like it's been such a growing process for this event, and I feel very excited for the amount of people who are excited to build team with us because we really need it as we grow. We need team that's like trained to take care of our participants, our people well, and so that we can support each other because as you know, it's a lot to do.
It is a lot. That's what I was thinking too. I was like, even if 10 people, stick it out and become coaches, that's probably double what we had last time. And honestly, like I felt pretty overwhelmed at times with the amount of people I was personally supporting on my team. And I wanted to make sure that like everyone got the attention and their time and things like that. But this time I'm like, I think I had like 11 people last time. I don't know, a lot. I'm like, I think like maybe 6 sounds really nice. Like just solid 6 group. So if we have more people, but also we should also be inviting more people. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it might just parallel right up with the ratio. We'll see what happens. And I mean, when I was just coaching, not that it's just coaching, it's a lot. Before I was co-leading, I would have teams of, I think my biggest team is maybe 15, which is still a lot. You really devote your time to it during that time period and leading up to it. And even now, co-leading it, I've still had teams of 10, 11, 12, and that is a lot. The thing is like, the room is so big that you want to see and meet and learn and support everyone in it. And it just becomes not enough. There's not enough hands, eyes, hours in a day when we don't have enough people. So I'm excited to see how the evolution over time has been really beautiful. And I'm excited to keep watching it expand and see what comes with it as we do.
I've already started talking to someone today about joining us. How would you describe this event to someone that you want to invite, but they don't know anything about what this is?
So this has been an evolution for me, and I'll explain why. Um, because I have this collaborative, there's two events, this online one and we have an in-person one that is a different category necessary kind of people that I serve on my own in my online business. So this event, I could express it in a way that would be relevant and imperative for anyone. But me personally, now when I'm talking to people who haven't heard of it, I'm still talking to my people in the online space because I'm very like personal transformation and personal branding and passive income. Like I'm very business oriented. Whereas this event, so that's who I personally speak to because those are the people I want to serve on greater levels. But if I take myself back to like just brand new to this event, didn't have to be in business, it's like really a place where you can come to like really learn yourself at a new level. There's a lot of awareness that comes out of this event with your how you're feeling and the way you express yourself and like your personal responsibility of your experience, learning what's important to you and what's steering the ship, and then having the discovery of that versus what you want to be steering the ship and where you want to be heading, and then having the tools to shift that. Because a lot of us, we move through a majority of our life pretty unconsciously, like not understanding that our fears or maybe our trauma and like our personal filters and experiences are actually leading the way, keeping us safe. And while we think we want other things, but we let it lead us a different way. So this, I would say, brings you to a place of a lot of awareness and then a real choice from a clean slate. So you create the picture of what you want, and then you clear the way so you're able to move towards it. And you get seen along the way. That's a big piece of this. You're seen in every piece of your authentic expression that you bring to the table. You get to be seen and loved through it, and maybe in things you've never allowed yourself to be seen in before, which is a beautiful, beautiful, important piece of this event as well.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a very supportive container. I know the first time I did it, which was, oh my gosh, the beginning of 22.
I still can't believe I didn't know you from that one. That's wild to me. The room gets so big. I wonder, do you remember how many people were attending that one? Because we've had such a range.
We had a lot of people. It was like, I was one of the most active people because I ended up winning one of the prizes. Because it was like me, Max, Brian Smith, and then, everybody else too. But yeah, that was a super awesome group. And that's the cool part. It's like, I don't stay in contact and text everyone every single day, which is actually something that I'm working on for myself. Like, how do you stay connected with the people that matter, but also not feel like if you don't text or call a person every single week or every single day that you're being a bad friend. But that's a whole nother story. But it's like Max, when I was traveling later that year for festivals, I ended up actually meeting up Max and like getting some kava and, getting some tacos and just hanging out and kicking it. So like some of the people that you meet along the way online literally become some of like the most important people in your life. So shout out Max. I know something that I don't know if everyone knows, so I'm going to not say. But anyway, I love Max. He's such a sweetheart. He got married now, so he's got a wife and a growing family, and he's doing really good. So, but yeah, after that first event, I ended up winning, I think it was the Coaching Academy is what I won. And then, which I was really like excited about. And then Ren, we actually connected in the online intensive, and it was all because her name is Karen and my mom's name is Karen. And I have a lot of shit around my mom that I've worked on. So, but she ended up winning the retreat for $500, which is a huge discount because that was one of the prizes that she won.
Yeah, that's like a $3,000 discount. Or there's a little bit of a better price inside the event, but yeah, $2,000-$3,000 discount. It's amazing. Yeah.
Really good deal. But she couldn't go. I was supposed to be going on a cruise. COVID had kind of like re-ramped up, especially like international things. And then a lot of ports were closing down. So we were like, we don't want to go on the cruise and just get stuck on a ship for, 6-7 days. So we just canceled it. Well, then I had the exact same dates off already from work for the retreat. And she messaged me and she was like, I can't go. I want to gift you this prize. And I was like, whoa. So that's how I ended up going to my first Wild Emergence, the Wild Emergence. And that one was in Utah. And a lot of people were like upset about it being in a mountain.
It's January. Let's go somewhere warm.
In this like cabin. And I thought it was so epic. I loved it. I love snow. We don't really get a whole lot of that in Oklahoma besides like flurries that melt away.
And the end of March.
Right, exactly. Whatever. So we went to basically Salt Lake, and the only person that I knew at all was Laura Leanna. And she's who actually brought me into this world to begin with. And then I just met 30 strangers, and let's talk about the Wild Emergence. So that's another part of what we do.
That's fun too, because I've been in the back end of the Wild Emergence since also like 2020. And because of the world and the way it was in 2020, I couldn't cross any borders. So I would like help prepare it, be on the back end, be on the other end of a phone call, and actually did not attend or facilitate it live until the one after Utah. So I didn't meet you there. I started in the very following one, which was June of that same year. Yes. And then you and I met at the following one, which is fun, in Washington in August of last year, and we hadn't met yet at all besides on the internet. And I just love our little story of like me leaving my car at the airport for you to like find the Airbnb with. And like, it's so fun, forgetting to tell you that it was in kilometers, not miles.
Yeah. Didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I was just staying slow.
And then, of course, we just got back from the Wild Emergence, California, where I did not get to see you again, almost, but travel and all that comes in. So yeah, the Wild Emergence, what a journey. And we get to do it again soon in a few more months, twice a year, every year. It feels really exciting.
Yes, we're going to make sure we get the dates out sooner than later for all of the people who are involved, including my planner self.
I agree.
Are we allowed to say where it is?
I mean, yeah, we're allowed. I'm allowed. I choose that I'm allowed. Yeah, I've been pulling for this one. We just did the Wild Emergence 7. So we've done them in all over. We've done Hawaii. We've done Sedona a couple of times. We've done Georgia. We've done Utah. We've done California. We've done Washington. And now we're pulling out a TWE Canada, the Wild Emergence Canada. And I'm so excited. I'm really excited for this one. It'll be weird to not travel on a plane to get to the Wild Emergence, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, I actually got a notification today. I started tracking flights just, around the time it might happen. And the prices went down and they are under 400 round trip. So
let's book them dates.
You just let me know when I need to pull that trigger.
We'll work on that.
So this will be my, second. It feels like I've already been to 2, but
You have been to 2.
Yes, I have. Okay.
This will be your 3rd.
So I've been to 2, almost 3. But Brian and I got stuck in Germany for a little bit longer than expected. However, Brian is now paid for, so we're ready to go. Brian has not been yet, and like I said, this will be my 3rd one. I feel like each one kind of has a theme for me, so it's like something that's like definitely at the top of like what I'm working on or what comes up for me. The first one was absolutely around my mom. Lots of stuff around my mom that I had like never dealt with, told people I need to work on, and then it just like all came up. That was also the time where I had just moved to California with my now ex-husband. And one of the exercises we did, I won't go into detail, but basically I spoke in front of a room of 30 people that I did not know. And the first thing that came up on day 1 for me, I said, I believe I'm with someone who truly loves me, but they're not the right person for me. And if you know me or any of my story, especially going back to like episode 1 through 3 of the podcast, literally everything started to unravel with my marriage. Like right after that, I started finding out so much stuff that I didn't know about. So that was a really wild experience. And then this last retreat in Washington, I think that was a theme for me, is like letting go of like the guilt of my marriage ending, and like, should I stayed longer and should I have done more? And so there was a lot of like letting go of that guilt for me. So I'm curious to see. I already had said like this one coming up, which will now be the one in Canada. I feel like there's going to be a lot of like handling, how I personally handle grief and loss, because I lost like the closest person to me in my life so far this past November. And I'm still working on that. But I think that'll be a theme that definitely comes up for me. And then also having my partner there for the first time, obviously. Ooh, we're gonna work on some things, which brings me to my next topic that I absolutely have to talk about with Kristina Marie. Polarity.
First, before we leave that, I just want to say too, like I have this same experience of obviously being there a few times and a partner who has not attended. And this last one in California, we had a very unexpected and beautiful gift of one of our facilitators partners who was not going to be there. He ended up being there, and what a beautiful gift for me personally to be able to watch them move through this work together, because it's something I desire and I'm also afraid of, because it's like that's your closest relationship, and this is deep intense. I'll even use the word intense work. It's so important, and it's deep and it's intense, and to move through that with your closest human it was a really beautiful gift to witness that. And yeah, I feel a little more excited and a little more scared both. So anyway, sorry, tangent.
My partner has not been involved in these events prior. So I do have a partner now who we've been together for like a year and for almost 5 months now. Oh my gosh. So a while.
We have a really similar timeline on our relationships. I didn't know that. About a year and a half. Yeah. Almost a year.
We talked about this with our current partners. Yeah. So this partner is much different than the one before, for lots of wonderful, positive reasons. I know. He's definitely in his masculine. I am a very like strong, independent woman, and I just get shit done by myself. And that's what I really learned leaving my last relationship. Like he was leaning on me in an unhealthy way. And so I just picked up the slack and got things done. And now in my relationship currently, where my partner is in a lot of ways taking care of me, I'm like uncomfortable, and even asking for help with things, I'm like, ooh, it makes me cringe. And we talked about polarity a whole lot during the last Evo Revo. That was a big topic that you stirred up. Yeah. And some of the things that you said definitely were like making me uncomfortable and triggering me, which it's okay. Which it was cool because Brian, my partner, was in the space. So he also got to have those conversations and hear what you're saying, and we got to talk about it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you think about polarity and relationships?
Yeah, this is one of my absolute most favorite topics to talk on now. And I just want to preface with when it came into my reality initially too, it was very triggering for me too. Triggering to the point where I've done enough work around triggers that I know there are gifts for me there. And I know those are my areas of wounding and not having been healed yet. So I leaned in. When it came into my world, I was like, oof, this is uncomfy, yucky, and okay, what's here for me? And I'm so grateful that I did, because I also, in my former partnership, I led that relationship. It felt very unsafe for me to not do so. I got things done. If things were going to get done, it's because I was going to do them. That's like was my experience. It's like I had to, otherwise the balls would drop, period, right? There was a lot of unsafety for me. My experience was unsafety. So leaving that relationship, I've been out of that partnership for almost 3 years already, which is wow. I took some time to myself and got myself in a little situationship by accident, oopsies, and had my heart ripped open and all this fun stuff. And then eventually, a couple of years after my separation started, I found the work of polarized relationships and masculine feminine communication. And shortly after that, got into my current partnership. So I was able to embody this work and this communication immediately as I was learning it. And now it's been this beautiful 1.5 year process of doing that. And now also not keeping quiet about it. It's something that feels so healing and so correct for me, but it does. I'm like, oh yeah, beyond the triggering feelings of like, this is not what I'm used to. It's like, oh my God, it feels so yummy is even the word. So I'll start with the sentence that I triggered the room with by accident on a live masterclass. And what I said, because I was coaching a team of mostly women. And there was a man that they asked to be on my team because people trickle in and they got to go somewhere. And I love men. Don't get me wrong. I love men. I love them. And through this work, I've made decisions and formed different beliefs that I don't believe I'm meant to coach men because I don't believe women lead men. I believe men lead women. So that was the triggering starting point for everybody. And it's true. It's true for me. So I'm going to preface again with, I don't know how this works for I'm speaking from the perspective of a monogamous heterosexual relationship. That's my experience. I cannot and I do not speak on anybody else's. So if it doesn't resonate because you're not in that kind of relationship, then that would make sense. So I like to preface there. I have a lot of beautiful people that don't land in that category in my life, and there's a lot of them in the world, and I'm not speaking for them. So that always feels very important to me. And I believe that polarized relationships and masculine feminine communication, anything less and outside of that in this type of relationship, in my relationship, was absolute wounding. And it for me, I very much resonate with what you're saying around like getting shit done and I have to do the things and strong, independent woman, blah, 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 because I had no choice most of my life but to be exactly that. But it's because I wasn't safe to do otherwise. No one was around to care for me, So it's like I did it because I had to. So now it's still a process because I lead my household. I got 2 boys, right? It's me and these 2 little boys. I lead an online business. I'm a leader in the online space. So it's like there's still contradictories for me where I'm like, figuring it out. How it feels in alignment to me the further I move into this work, but also the moment I leave the internet or I set down my hat at the end of the momming day to be able to sink into I'm going to use the word to sink into a submissive, cared for, not having to lead and make decisions role has been the most healing journey I've ever been on in my life. And I've been on some healing journeys, trust. So it's just something I talk on now because if someone hadn't been willing to speak on it, I would have never found it. So I speak on my experience of it shamelessly now because it's been so beautiful and I know it's triggering because me too. There are still pieces. My mentor in this space, there are pieces of this where he says things where I'm still 1.5 years in, like, what? What do you mean? Like, I still can't get on with all of it. And I just know there's more for me there. So I'm excited to keep going down that path.
So for me, my partner is very dominant and that's cool with me in lots of areas. But when it comes to like the day-to-day relationship stuff, like how do you let go of the control? Because at the end of the day, that's really what it is, right?
So this is the work. This is 1,000% the work because there's a lot of surrender and trust involved. And where it's trickiest is where if there's something happening, I have a framework of communication that I use as a feminine being. And I stay with it as I do my best and to stay right in it. And even when there's a solution that I see ahead of time, and I might see it ahead of time, I stay in that framework of communication and I do not get in the way of him finding the solution or making the decision because why would I rob him of that? right? Because I'm impatient or I might know. I would much rather respect my partner, respect a man, not even my partner. I'm like, I speak this way with men in general. I would much rather respect a man than be right faster or be right at all because that feels good to me. And then they, in turn, like they care for you, whether it's intimate or platonic or whatever, professionally, I experience it across the board. And it's this beautiful, like the juice is far much more like it's worth the squeeze, you know? And you don't know that at first. It's like trusting and being like, okay, I'm gonna, like I don't express solutions ahead of time. I literally express, I'll give you the 4. Do you want the 4? My feminine communication, I express feelings, actual feelings. I don't say, I feel like you need to do this or anything. I express actual feelings. I express needs. And again, not, I need you to, it's actual needs. Like I need uh, reassurance, something, whatever, like an actual need. Needs, feelings, problems, which is a beautiful one because it gives space for men to solve problems, which is what they're built to do. Like have you ever had your partner when you just like really need to feel something and you want to share it with him and he just wants to fix it instead? They're like built for that, right? So when I have an actual problem, something silly like, I can't open the pickle jar. And giving them the space to be like, I got that. Like, it's just so yummy and respectful and it feels good for them and me, him and me, them and you, whatever it is. So feelings, needs, problems. And then my favorite, that wasn't my favorite at first, permissives. I ask permission a lot from men about like, may I ask a question? May I share a feeling? May I have some help? Is like very common communication from me, not just with my partner, but literally all men and women. It's just a feminine way to speak. I ask first, may I share? May I share my experience? So yeah.
Yeah, that would be the hardest one for me.
It was for me too. And now I love it.
Yeah, and I feel like
scratches her neckline.
I know, I'm like, oh, okay. But it's like, I also just have a hard time asking for anything. And I feel like that's really where I need to work on myself to even get to that place for anybody else. Cause it's like, I will need, like the other day, I was like, okay, let's be real here. I work at a job, my 9 to 5, my day job. It's a job that I don't get benefits. I don't get time off. So when we traveled, like I had money to pay for, my bills. But then when I got home, I don't have a paycheck for 2 weeks. So, and Brian's like, don't worry about it. We got this. I got a bonus. We're good. And the other day I was like, I got to get an oil change and I got to get a new windshield wiper. Like my thing's falling off. And he was like, okay, and what are we going to do about that? And I'm like, well, and he's basically just like, come on, just ask what you need and we can take care of it. So that's something that it's funny, like literally just this week, that stuff has come up for me, but I'm like, it makes me uncomfortable asking for help from my partner it's my partner. And that should be totally okay, especially when he's already reassuring me like, we got this.
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do you have the awareness already, or are you open to that feeling of discomfort being wounding?
I feel like I'm open to it as of recently because it's super scary. Even just talking about it right now, I'm like,
I quit. I didn't want to do this podcast. Bye.
But yeah, I think I'm definitely like open to it. And that's why I think the retreat with Brian and I together will also be really fucking epic and powerful for both of us. And I mean, not even just as like a partnership, but for me personally, like just to be in that space where people can see how we interact and the way that we talk to each other and have people calling us out or calling me out, that's scary. And let's do that. Like, I want to have like, I don't want to be in another relationship with another person. Like, this is my person. And we definitely butt heads because we are so very strong, like two very strong people. But we need to figure out how to work that out. And I know a big part of that is me. With him being 15 years older than me also, lots of times he'll sit back and be like, oh, I remember being this age and experiencing this thing that you're talking about. So like, he has more life experience than and I respect him and I know he's got my back. So I don't want to fuck it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's tough because it feels so counterintuitive for us, especially if we're protecting ourselves that we were taught we needed to do most of our lives. It feels counterintuitive when when everything, yeah, it feels like if we don't keep ourselves safe, nobody will. And yet we want them to keep us safe, but we don't give them that option. So it's actually beautiful. So when I started this work, the study and then embodying it, I didn't tell my partner. I wasn't like, hey, I'm doing this thing. I didn't, none of it. I just started embodying the work I was studying. And he started being like, what? Like, tell me what is happening, basically. And the more he studies it a bit with me now because he's led us there. He desires that. He wants that. He tells me when to turn it on, kind of stuff. And that wasn't true for the first however long, a long time. And the actual amount that shifted for us and me witnessing him step so much more into his masculine, his leadership, and just like his power from being so respected just by simply me doing the work and getting out of the way was wild. He wasn't doing any of it. He didn't know what I was doing. He had no awareness around the specifics at all. And just watching how much would shift just by one of us knowing and doing the work of it. Now it's very beautiful because we both have some awareness and desire and interest in it, and we're both doing it. But either way, right? It's like often we get to get out of the way. We are in the way. Here's what I say, kind of like this is more on when I want to be a little cheeky or disruptive. And I'll just say like, there are many, many women out there walking around emasculating men, wondering where all the masculine men are. We just do, and unfortunately nobody is responsible for that but us, and like we can't, when we really look at it from a bigger zoomed out vision, when we see it for what it is, it's like, of course these relationships fail. I have so much more accountability now in my former partnership, even though it was a disaster and there were so many things and I don't see it going a different way, but I can see how my unawareness, unwillingness, or not feeling safe to be in like the style of communication I am in now, even with my former partner, I can see how that made it harder for us. I didn't get out of the way even when it was safe because I was like, nope. So yeah, it's a really beautiful journey, and it is work. It is the work. It takes everything in me sometimes just to shut my fucking mouth. Am I allowed to swear here? I did.
Yes. Yeah, the last episode with Brian actually about Germany, I was like, I think this is the least amount of cussing I've done on the podcast. And he said something, I was like, we cuss on the podcast. It's fine. And eventually, like, I would love to go on a couples retreat. I think that would be super cool. That would be so cool. Just to like be in the shit with everyone and like work. Because I think what's crazy is like, I feel like when people are in a relationship, people just think everything's great. Everything's good to go. Like, it is what it is. You're going to be together forever. And I remember when my stuff started happening with my ex, people were like, wait, what? Like, I'm going to a wedding in like 3 weeks with Brian. And I'm like, you're going to meet all of my friends in Nashville. And I think some of them probably don't even know that I'm not with my ex, because that's just what you do. You get married, you stay married, and we don't talk about it after that. So I'm definitely manifesting a couples retreat. Whether I do it with you guys, ourselves, or go to one, we'll see.
I'll keep an eye out on my mentor. We'll see if he puts any out. That'd be really wonderful and highly triggering. We could celebrate after. I would have a desire for that as well. I think that'd be really cool because you're right. It's like a slow burn in relationships. It's good until all of a sudden one day it's just like kind of not, especially if you're still it's nothing big happening. It's not a big explosion. There's not like, it's a healthy relationship, yet things are off, whether it's like a slow disrespect or emasculation or whatever it is over time. It's like, those ones are even harder because it's just like, no, I love you. And you're not yelling at me. You're not cheating on me. There's nothing big happening, but then something feels like off. So then we either stay in it and abandon ourselves, or we are confused around leaving this thing that's actually really beautiful. There was just another layer of work there. And sometimes we're just afraid to go there or find it, or we don't even think about it being that. There's just a lack of awareness. And it's really sad and unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely lots to dive into in this topic. I actually was talking to Brian about how at Goddess Awakening, we're going to have a whole space for like workshops and ceremony and things like that. But I kind of want to host or co-host, I'm not sure what it is yet, but like a roundtable discussion about like uncomfortable topics. Like that's the name. And then people can just pop in and be like, whatever it is, polarity. I can think of lots of uncomfortable topics that it's making me uncomfortable to even say out loud, which is perfect. And then like the rules would be like, you can participate as long as you're respectful. If you can't be respectful, then you can sit on the outside and listen, but you don't
Absolutely.
get to participate. And having topics where like, and that's the thing, my brand is Goddess Awakening. And people are like, people, especially men, have lots of things to say about like people all the time. Are men welcome to the festival? Absolutely. Yes, please. Please come. Like we need the men. We want the men.
I love that. We need the men. I feel like that's a valid question and maybe even a respectful question to make sure men are allowed. And like, I love that it's such a resounding yes. I agree. We do need the men. And men need men. That's the thing. Men need brotherhood and yeah.
Yeah, I have a few people in mind that actually host men's circles, and I'm thinking to bring that into the space would be really cool too. And then having spaces for like Brian is a veteran, so having a circle where veterans can just talk about, whatever they need to talk about or want to talk about, and just like people connecting with people. We want to have like a memorial space where we can honor our friends and loved ones who have passed. Because I think that's another thing that we just like don't talk about after it happens. Like this is my first time processing, an adult loss, versus being like a kid or something like that. And it's like, what do I believe happens? And I'm faced with that reality of like, what do I think happens? Like, can I speak to my friends still? Like, are they hanging around? But yeah, there's a lot to dive into with grief and loss too. So just topics that are like hard and maybe triggering. But I think that would be something really cool to hold space for.
I agree. And like for multiple reasons, for the first obvious reason that people may not be speaking these things and they may be living inside of them. And also for the uncomfortable conversations that are like controversial a little, and there's going to be very differing opinions. I believe this is such an important thing that we do in this planet and in all of our little circles is coexist harmoniously and respectfully with differences. Unfortunately, people like to jump on one side of the fence or the other and then shoot stones at the other one. And it's like, we actually wouldn't have a world if we were all the same. We wouldn't function as a humanity if we all believed and did and acted the same way. That actually is human nature, is coexisting respectfully with differences. And we all get to do better with that. We all do. And rooms like that and conversations like that are a beautiful place that are, regulated and not going to allow anyone to spout off and be disrespectful. It's a beautiful place to start with things like that. And also we heavily promote that in the online event that we do as well. It's just like,
that's what I was going to say next.
Yeah.
Definitely topics will come up that will trigger you. You'll bring up topics that will trigger other people. And we get to talk about it. And it's really cool. That's probably one of my favorite parts. Is just
and nobody's wrong. It's beautiful. Yeah. Nobody makes anybody wrong. It's just we get to feel what we feel when it comes up and then coexist together and love each other through it and love ourselves through it. And it's just, I can't even articulate properly the healing that is in being fully seen and not abandoned for who you are. Because unfortunately, again, most of all of our fears and wounding, they all boil back in our humanness to come from things of like rejection, betrayal, abandonment. It all boils down to like, we're afraid we're not going to be loved because we all have the same fucking wounding at the end of the day, So it's important stuff that we're rewriting, and we don't do it in enough spaces yet. So we get to keep opening the spaces that do this kind of work.
Yes. Yeah, so all that to say, this podcast is to plug. I'm just kidding, but really.
We got a few plugs going on here. We got Goddess Awakening Festival.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, I just want you guys to have a good time and like be happy at the end of the day. Like all of these things are healing spaces in different ways. And the online, I always call it the online intensive. I don't know why I call it that, but Evo Revo.
Evolution Revolution online.
Yes, it happens in May, at the end of May, like May 25th. Yes. It's only $44.
It's only $44 right now in pre-sale. We actually are, depending on when this even comes out, we are putting it back up to our previous investment of still low, still for what you get is very low, of 111. So that'll be happening in the coming weeks. Right now it's 44 in pre-sale, and it's a week long. You get 5 master classes. You get a whole group of people doing the work. You get one-on-one support. For what you get in this work, it's actually wild, the accessibility we give to it, and we stand by it. Because some people don't have the even awareness that this kind of work is important, and to have a smaller investment to get them in the work is worth it for us every time. And we party. We have such a good time. All of our we're like all best friends and family by the end, and we stay in touch and we collaborate in other ways together. And it's a beautiful, even networking space while you go and like grow. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yes, definitely lots of networking, which like meeting new people and connecting the dots of like this person, like Mitchell, for example. Mitchell and I became friends when we were freshmen in college. What? Like that was 14 years ago. What the fuck? And literally the reason I stay connected with him, thanks to Facebook. People hate on Facebook. I love Facebook. But he started talking about some wild stuff on his stories. And I was like, bro, you good? Basically is how that reconnection happened a few years back now. And then we ended up moving back. We both left Oklahoma, moved back to Oklahoma the same summer, like within 2 weeks of each other. And we met up and we've stayed connected ever since then. And then I was like, hey, you need to join this space. Like this is your people. And now, of course, the rest is history, and Mitchell will probably be around forever as well.
Yeah, now we've all met him when you didn't quite make it there at the in-person event, and he is our people. He's like a pillar of that community already. He went to one online event, one in person. He hangs out in the free Facebook group. Brings so much of his humanness and value to the community, and yeah, he just feels like a forever. Like you've been here the whole time. It feels like. So yeah, thank you for bringing him to us, into the family.
And thank you, Laura. Laura brought me, so thank you, Laura. It's just so cool to see like the connections with people, and then like Goddess Awakening. I know you're coming, Brittany's coming, Crystal's coming.
My in-person Brittany came, and like you guys are really connected now, and she'll be at Goddess Awakening. It was beautiful. There's this beautiful web of like love and connection, and it's all over a couple countries at least. More international soon.
Yes. So we talked about Twee, we talked about Evo Revo, talked about Goddess Awakening, we talked about polarity. What else do you have going on, Kristina Marie? Because that wasn't enough.
Yeah, what else do I have going on? Honestly, this season, I just came out of such a season of travel. Like I'm in this chapter of my life that I've been working towards and dreaming of, and for so long. Like I've traveled every 4 to 6 weeks since like summer for work and for not work. And so I have multiple collaborative items. So I have the online and in-person event that is with my collaborative partner, Jamie Skagen. So that's the ones we're talking about today. I have my own stuff in the online space. I have another membership that I collaborate with with a different human, a different beautiful human. I have a signature program in the online space. Me outside of these events, I work more specifically with personal brands, and that's been an evolution over time. I used to be like the Facebook ads girl for brick and mortar businesses like Salt and what are they? Float spa studios and like yoga studios. So it's been an evolution for me, and I just keep winding into more and more of what like lights me up. And it's just I've coined the term over time, like not your typical strategist, because it's like, yes, we build. I want to say we build together. I don't work privately with people much anymore, but between working privately and in my program, it's like, yeah, we build, your content and your brand, your courses, your frameworks, your all these things. So yes, there's strategy. And also when it comes, like, the foundation of this is like bringing people home to the truth of who they are, authentically expressing exactly who that is, and then building your business around that. So it's like the passion that I have in every single aspect of the things I work in for people owning, like learning, owning, and then expressing all of who they are and allowing their business and their life to reflect that. And like the freedom that comes with all of that is such a passion for me. So I'm doing multiple projects at all times, living my little beach life right now. I don't know, single mom and living a beach life, loving my community, loving my business, loving my life. Yeah. It does feel like there's a lot on the go, but it's different when you love every piece of it. So
yeah, I feel like I'm getting close to that where I'm like, okay, I got this thing that I really like. I got this thing that I really like. I got this thing that I really like. Now, how do I bring it together, pay the bills, and still not lose my mind? That's what I'm figuring out.
absolutely. And whether that's financially or even, so for me, my journey earlier, like a year-ish ago, I had these different projects. I kept them so separate in my brain, like my own program, these events, da da da. And it was finding the correlation between all of it to understand deeply for myself and could communicate it deeply to others what that correlation was. And it really was bringing it back to like truth. I call it truth-based business. And it's like, it always starts like business from the inside out. It's an inside job. And when I was able to make that correlation, it's like everything started to click. Nothing was separate. All of my collaborations, programs, projects, events, all of it fit together. And that, when you really start to correlate it, it's like your revenue gets to be mirrored by like the clarity you build that way, the clarity and the excitement and the certainty you build within it. And then you just get to grow, and it's super fun. So I love that you're feeling really close to that, because there was many years, many. I'm like a baby entrepreneur. I've been in the online space since 2017. Many years of that wasn't true for me. So I'm feeling really grateful. And I love seeing people in my communities that feel like where I was 2 steps ago. And I'm like, oh, it's coming, get excited. Like I can see me and so many people in my community. Yeah. So it feels really cool and exciting to be walking, like locking arms and walking the same path with humans I love in the online space, yourself included.
Yes, I did lots of festivaling in 22, as many may know, and I love festivals, and that will never go away. And something that came up recently with Brian is like, I have been, battling, do I want to have a kid? Do I want to have a kid? Do I want to have a kid? And it just hasn't happened. And then at work, this mom comes in and she ended up saying, I'm 10 weeks pregnant. Accidentally. My youngest son is 13. And I went home and talked to Brian about it. I was like, you know what? That is the sweetest lady. And I was like, kind of angry. Like, how does that just accidentally happen for people? But I told him, I was like, I want to have a kid and it's going to be with you. Whether that's, natural birth or we adopt a kid or we foster or whatever it is, but I want to do that. And I was like, but I'm not going to stop going to festivals. And it's not like I need to go to 30 festivals a year. I can go to these festivals where we're bringing the Goddess Awakening space and doing harm reduction again, tying those pieces together. I love harm reduction. I love music festivals. I love Goddess Awakening. At the end of the day, too, it's networking and marketing my brand. And meeting these people throughout the last couple of years who do it with kids is so inspiring to me. I'm like, you can do this as a responsible parent, and it's okay.
Yes. I just totally had a vision of like not vision, like a thought of like a little kid space at Goddess Awakening. Like we can all bring our kids and there can be a kid space. I love that too. And I haven't spoke about it yet here today, and I'd like to, if that's okay. I've said it to you a million times, but like your mission and what you're doing, I have felt so resonant with since the beginning of knowing you, because it's like, I come from a background of like, I have a long standing history with addiction. I loved the party scene. I loved like music and raves and all of that stuff. And in my journey now of like adulthood, motherhood, and sobriety, it's like I'm so far from all of that because it doesn't feel safe or desirable to me, because there's not enough spaces that meet the two, where it's like you can enjoy the good parts, but that aren't completely infested with only negative, dark things I don't want. Right. So I feel very excited to be on the journey with you and your brand as well, and being at Goddess Awakening and getting to experience that, because there's areas that I feel like I'm missing that are so good for us. Like music is life. It's like music therapy all day, every day. I sing and dance everywhere I go, everything I hear. And I miss doing that in community and loud and everywhere, but it doesn't feel safe and accessible to me in my current desires of life, you know? So I feel very excited. And I think what you're doing is so important and so powerful. So,
well, thank you. Right back at you. Okay, well, our time is up. So it sounds like we're going to have a part 2 with Kristina Marie because we've got lots more to go and talk about. But how can we find you on the socials?
On the socials, yeah, I'm on Instagram at Hey Kristina Marie. That's 2 E's at the end. And I mean, that's the best place. You can find me from everywhere else from right there. So.
Perfect. So we'll post those links with our episode description here in a few days. But thank you for talking. This was super fun.
Yeah, this was super fun. It was good to see you. I love you.
Love you too. Have a great Wednesday. Have a great Wednesday. Thanks for listening to this episode of Goddess Awakening. Check out our link tree in the description for all our socials and upcoming events. This podcast is brought to you by the Possibilities Podcast platform.